Damn it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Zippy Industries. Today we are going to chopperize this Shovelhead frame. It's 70 something. What the hell was it? It's an 80. Huh. Anyway, we're gonna cut this thing up. All right. Customer brought this to us. He drove all the way from Indiana and brought it to us. So brought us some parts. We got a frame, which he dipped, which is awesome because there's no grease or anything on this thing. It's had some questionable things done to it in its life because, you know, that happens, right? Shovelhead shit. But he brought some parts. We got some Tinworks axle plates we're going to use. All right. He drilled these for slugs for me, which is great because it makes my life a lot easier. He also brought me his Tinworks oil tank, which is going to go, it's supposed to go here under the transmission, so we're going to have to figure that out. The way Tinworks has theirs is this bottom is not factory, right? It's they use their own mount there, so gonna have to figure that out. Decide if we're going to cut that out and put our own in, or if we're going to modify his oil tank, or what the plan is. We're gonna have to figure that out once we get everything cut apart. Got our tube here, right? 1 1/8" 120 wall DOM. That is what we are going to use. All right, and we're going 4 up. He wants 4. He wants a straight backbone. He said 4 up. I talked to him. He just wants a straight backbone. So, but we're gonna go 4 up, and we'll see what we can get. The problem we might run into is we are going to reuse the stock neck. So if we go 4 up, right, this thing is going to start doing this, right? Especially if we don't change anything. So we go like this, our rake is going to get way out there. So I'm going to try and keep the rake around 40 degrees. He said he's good with that. So if we can get it out at 40, we'll take that top tube and put a little bend in it. That way it'll bring our neck down and we can have an actual something to work with. So, but first things first, gotta get our stainless one out because it's still not done. All right, so we got our frame in here. All right, so yeah, I know we're changing all this, so honestly putting it in here is kind of a waste of time, but I want to make sure the frame is straight. All right, so I want to make sure there wasn't any crazy shit going on, and it fits. So it fits like it's supposed to. Everything's flat. So now we're going to cut it, and we're pretty much going to cut this thing into 100 pieces, right? So we're pretty much building this frame more or less. Different axle plates, but the same overall look. All right, so we're going to cut our neck off, cut this off, cut this off. This is all going to come out. All this shit's going to come off. He doesn't want to run any of this shit, so while it's off, I'll put it in the bandsaw and cut all this shit off. This is all going to get replaced. All right, we're going to hack it here on our seat post, right? Because this yoke's going to come off more than likely. Yeah, so we're going to put the other half of the axle plates on, right? Because it's a 2-piece deal. All right, so we'll get these bolted on, all right? But first things first, let's cut it. right, so we got our major cutting done. I still gotta clean these up. All right, these gotta come out, so we'll cut the weld. Yeah, we'll cut these out. Cut these out. This has a slug in it, right, from the factory molding. Cut that out. And then this has to be cleaned up the neck. So all these tubes will get pulled out. All right, so they all have plug welds or rosettes on each side. And then there's a weld on the end, right? So gotta get all that shit off. Usually I just cut these flush, try to find the end of the casting, cut them flush, that gets rid of the weld. And then I use a burr and take these welds out. So if I had a mill where I could put an end mill in there, that'd be a lot better, but whatever. So this is the setup he wants, right? He wants 4 up in the front, 40-degree rake, right? Which will give us a straight backbone, all right? Rear axles in the stock place, everything else is stock. All right, this is going to get kicked back a little bit, so we'll cut this and we'll put, we'll bend a piece and then put this back in. It'll kick it back a smidge. All right, so, and then our oil tank, this guy is going to need some major modification. So this thing goes under the transmission, right, and it's not designed to be used with the factory castings. All right, so all this shit hits. So we're gonna do some major work here. So I'm going to modify the tank for the center post, and we're going to modify this area in general. So yeah, but let's get this neck cleaned up, and then we can start running some tubes. All right, so we got our neck cleaned up. We got all of our old slugs out. Right, this is all the factory shit here, right? Okay, so basically all I did on these was I flattened the weld out with a flat disc, and then center punched them, and then drilled a 1/2-inch hole. And then from there I just used a burr, carbide burr, right, like this guy, and worked the hole out until I could see where the tubes split, right? So when these are in here, you'll be able to see where it separates. Right, you can see this parting line because once you get to that point, you get that weld out, that parting line will show up. If it doesn't, or if you're having problems seeing it, take a little punch, right, and smack the front of this, all right, and see if it moves, see if that line shows up. Every single one of these so the few of these I've done, there's always been rust inside. So once you tap it, it'll show itself. If you don't see anything, it still looks solid like this. Keep going, waller it out a little bit. All right, it'll show itself. So this one came out pretty good. All right, so these sometimes are splined. See, like these are sometimes splined. The last frame I did, both these tubes and these tubes were splined. Why they did that, I don't know. This one didn't have that, they were smooth. This one had a weld down here on the bottom. The last frame I did didn't have any on this country bar, so. But anyway, we got the top of the casting cleaned up, all that's ground down. This still needs some work in here, but I'm gonna leave that for him. He really just wanted it, cut off. So we're gonna do some work here on the post, on the seat post, but the rest of this is ready to go. So we can put our tubes in here and here. You see I got them drilled here, got everything drilled down here. I am going to drill these, so we'll do that next. And then once I drill these, I can put these in and weld these, and then finish this, and then we'll get to this. Last time I did these, not these axle plates, the last one I did, I rosetted it and welded this at the same time, and then I finished this, and then it messed up my weld a little bit, the way it looked. It didn't like hurt the integrity, but so this time I'm going to rosette these, finish weld these, and then do my finish, and then do our welds on here, so that way it looks good. All right, so when you go to paint it or whatever, that part looks good, right? It's not gonna be all fucked up. So yeah, so getting there. 40 degrees, 4 up. All right, these tubes are gonna run, it runs almost, so we're gonna have to put a bend in like here in order to line these up. These are still in the factory location. I'm not gonna change them like we did on ours. On Texas bike, I bent these in a little bit, and it makes it a real pain in the ass to get the motor in. because this tube comes back pretty far, and that exhaust port won't slide past this without, like, it's a nightmare. I probably won't do that again. I will do that again because I'm stupid. But anyway, gotta clean this up. These still have some from where I cut it out. For these, all I did was take a cutoff wheel, ran it down the weld, right? Ran it down the weld, and then cut the tube off, right? And then I ran it this way on the weld, cut that off, and then just took my grinder and worked these down, kind of similar to this. Work them down until you see the parting lines. That tells you you're far enough and you're through the welds, right? And then you can just take a cold chisel and pop it, right? So it'll lift the corners and you can see where you still need to grind at. And once it's ready, it'll come out. So this guy, cut off wheel on the weld here, and then I ran you can see it touched it just a bit there. Then I ran it this way and split the tube and took my chisel and peeled it off, right? So you can get it pretty good, right? I ran it just on the weld because you can see where the casting is and where the weld is. So I still got to clean the top up. There's a little bit of weld up here on top, but for the most part, this thing's ready to go other than getting the rust off. So, well, it's been some shit. Back on our frame, I got the center yoke cut off. All right, so use my little Milwaukee bandsaw over there and cut to cut this thing, right? You can see where the weld is, right? And then so I cut it where the casting, because you can see where the weld is on the casting. So I'll grind this down until I can see our parting line, right? You can start to see a little bit of it up here, right? You can see where it is. So honestly, we might be able to drive this out, but I'm gonna put a little grind on it to see what it looks like, and then we're gonna drive that out. But got our our rails here for the most part to where we want them. I had to put like a 5-degree bend in these because of the way these axle plates are and the way they were drilled for their slugs. They had been like way up here, and we would have to go like at least 6 up, if not more, on our frame, which isn't what the guy wants, and I don't want to build a frame that high in the front when we're going, you know, with the stock neck and shit. So it would look ridiculous, and we ain't building no St. Louis shit here. So yeah, so that's where we're at. I needed to get this guy, and then this center seat post, I needed to get it tilted back. So I got a piece of 1.5 DOM 120 wall here. Put like a 7-degree bend on it roughly. That'll get us kicked back to where our angles all match, right? You can already see that the bars are pretty close. So by the time we bring this guy down to where it needs to be, we are right where it's going to be. All right, so we got this guy here. It's going to live in here, right? And if you look, the lower part of that is parallel to our post, so should be pretty close. But once we get this center post in, then I'll cut a new backbone. That one's a little short because I originally cut it trying to do the stock seat post, which isn't going to work. So I'll cut a new one. I have a bunch of it. And then once we get our backbone in, right, I'm going to tack it. That way everything locks in. And then we can do our down tubes and get those locked in. And then we'll work on the back here. I want to get the front all taken care of, get all this tacked in, get the seat yoke tacked in, get all this level and shit. That way it's all good to go, and then we can focus on doing our bends on the back and getting this all taken care of. So the lower legs are done. We have slugs that go in here, so they just need to be tacked in. But yeah, making some progress on this thing. I will take all this mill scale off this, and it'll look like this. All right. I can't fit that long of a piece in my lathe to spin it and get the shit off, so I'm going to have to use my tubing polisher. So yeah, let's get this guy going. You can see where we were grinding down. You can see we got our line showing up here. I may not be able to see it very well. Alright, but you can see where the tube is right now. We've ground down to where we've gotten the weld off. It has a pretty clean line. Alright, now we just got to drive it out. So all the welds should be gone. Once we get it cut out, or once we get it out, I'll clean this up a bit. Alright, we should be good to go. Alright, got our yoke out. I remember I was trying to hammer it out, and then I remembered I have a press. And I used that, and it wasn't moving for a little bit, and then it popped, right? And if you look in here, you can see there is a plug weld right there, right? So that would make sense why it wasn't moving, and it sheared it off. So, but here's what it is. Last one didn't have that, so they definitely made some changes. The last one was also like a 66 frame, so take with that what you want. Just remember, gotta look shit over. So I honestly didn't think about it, and mainly because the last one didn't have it or whatever. So, but we got our yoke. All right, so it's all clean. I gotta clean the inside out, get it rust off, and then we can fit this bad boy up, and we will be good to go. So gotta put our seat post in here, and then we can figure out where our height needs to be and get our slug in and all that shit. Finally got this frame completely welded out. Still need to do some metal finishing, touch up some stuff, but for the most part, it's done. This tank was a fucking nightmare. I'm gonna be honest. So, I got the mounts really pretty slick in here. Pretty happy with it, but it uses the two front trans plates, bolts, and I have top hat bungs in here. And then on the back, I did a top hat bung in here into the back panel, and then made this plate in here, which also braces these, right? But gives us a hidden mount here with the cap bolt. So still got to weld that out. Got to do a couple welds in here that I couldn't get to with it in the jig. But this tank, I'll just show you. The amount of work we had to do to get this tank to fit, right? If you saw earlier in the video, this thing was flat. All right, so to get it to work with the stock Harley castings, because Tinworks makes this not to work, it's not built to work with this, the Harley casting. It's built to work with aftermarket stuff. So a plate, with a single tube here and some other shit. So, but we have all these castings, right? And everything is gusted and whatnot. So in order to clear here, right, for that casting there, I had to do this, which clears all the ribbing. And then to clear the studs for the transmission, I had to drop this like quarter, half inch or so to give it plenty of room. And then you have the transmission drain, all right, that little sump deal. And your bolt here, your mount, your fifth mount, right? So all that had to be clearanced. So this is all 1/8 inch plate. So the whole thing is 11 gauge. The whole top is 1/8 inch. Oh, and then also had to move this bung. This is the feed. It was here, which puts it directly right here, which is useless. So if any of you are looking at getting the Tinworks under transmission oil tank, avoid it. Yeah, why is my camera? Or just be ready to do a lot of work. Like when it's in the bike, it does look nice, but it's going to create a bunch of problems, right? You're not going to be able to drain the transmission without taking the damn tank out. And their drain sits below the frame. That was another reason why we had to do this to begin with. This thing sat 1/2 inch below the frame. Like quite a bit, right? It was way down here. So we raised it up. It is almost flush with the bottom of this rail, right? It's like a 1/16 down, all right? But you have this, these cross members sit lower than the actual tank does. So the tank will be all right, but that drain there is quite a bit lower still, right? It hangs out the bottom. Ain't really a whole lot I can do about that unless I rework it again. So whatever. He knows about it. He's fine with it. So it is what it is. But rest of this is good to go. I hate these axle plates. They were a huge pain in the ass. Honestly, I don't think they flow very well, but it is what it is. Also, this frame was tweaked. Yeah, that was fun. I didn't find that out until I got it in here and started cutting stuff, right? So this rear mount was down like 1/8 of an inch. You can see where I heated it to bring it back up because I couldn't get the legs to line up at all. So I had to tweak it back and bend it back to where it was, right? So you can see the previous, whoever had this thing, it's all fucked up. So yeah, good old tweaker welds on this thing previously. So anyway, that's beside the point. So we still got some work to do, right? I still got to blend out some of these welds. The upper motor mount is in, right? I just have it tacked because he wants to look at it. He wanted some swoopy thing, whatever. I'm going to leave the hole for him to drill. He's going to do some speed holes, lightning holes, whatever. So I'll leave that up to him to do whatever he wants to do because, you know, we're 10 hours apart and it is what it is. So, but the rest of it's done. We just got to weld it out. But we got to get out of the jig. There we go. The jig is a little tight, so it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's out. Still got, like I said, still got metal finish and stuff, but for the most part, it is done. I gotta get some welds in here because with the jig you can't get to it. So, but overall, pretty happy with how the welds and whatnot turned out. This one fought me. All right, so yeah, it was a pain in the butt, but happy it's done. I got to do some new stuff with that tank and whatnot, which is what it is. But that's gonna do it for now, everybody. So stay tuned and take care, and we'll see what's next.